turning back.
Welcome to the Last Boy Scouts podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Danny.
And I'm Tyler. We're super excited to have you join us for another episode, whether you're catching us on your favorite podcast preview area or you're hitting the YouTube. We just appreciate a little bit of your attention.
Yeah. We're going to start with a cheers.
Cheers, for sure.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just got out of some monster rolls tonight.
Yeah.
Monster roll, 20 rounds.
20 rounds. It was good. I usually don't stay for 20 rounds on Thursday because I go to work 4 o'clock in the morning and get off, go teach 2 kids classes, and then usually stay for adult class. But man, Nick showed up, and
Yeah, when the black belt shows up, you want to be there.
he's got such a good presence on the mat. Like when he comes on the mat, you can feel that everybody's energy changes.
Yep.
And everybody knows that like you have to up your game when he's on the mat. So you can feel that everybody's kind of like preventing or holding on to a little bit because they know they have to go with him.
Right.
And he can make you move and do a lot of things to you.
Which brings us to our topic, right? Little
Yeah.
sips and save your grips.
Little
That's
sips, save your grips. That's
So
we like that.
Yeah, and I know we promised a guest for Jiu-Jitsu Lifestyle Part 3. I think we're going to save that because we've had some things come up that we just really want to rap about.
Right.
And ultimately, we don't want to become a Jiu-Jitsu podcast, although we're always likely going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
I really do think we want to serve men's mental health, men's issues,
Yeah.
and those kind of things. But for us right now, Jiu-Jitsu is the way we work through a lot of those issues.
It is. Yeah. And we can always like reference back to jiu-jitsu and have like little tidbits from jiu-jitsu or little tidbits from professor that we can throw in there.
Yeah.
But like you said, we don't want to be a jiu-jitsu podcast. That's not kind of our platform.
No, I mean, yeah, it is. It's a huge part of our lifestyle. In fact, we had this amazing opportunity to meet with Master Sauer
It was awesome.
this Tuesday.
Man, we are so lucky that was we talked about this before, lineage, but if you don't know Master Sauer, Pedro Sauer, unassuming when you meet him, such a nice guy. When he talks to you, he's like, has this really cool way of delivery, like this really cool delivery. And when he talks to you, Tripp and I were talking about this on the way home, he makes you believe that he knows you.
Yeah.
He has that really good gift. And I think like, I want to develop that.
Oh yeah.
I want people to think that I'm there, that I really am, that I really am your friend,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I mean, he takes everyone in his association under his wing. He was really pushing for affiliate days amongst his association. Those people that prescribe to his flavor of jiu-jitsu, his academies or his like it is an association. It's the Pedro Sauer under Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Association.
Yeah. So a little backstory. He was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro. He told us about that. And he did other martial arts, but his best friend or his good friend just happened to be Rickson Gracie.
Right.
Could you imagine that later on in life, you're like, you're 15 years old and that's your friend and you're like, whatever, you're getting into trouble surfing and all that stuff. And he's his friend. Right. Yeah. And in the, Rickson was telling him all the time, like, come do jiu-jitsu, do this jiu-jitsu that we're doing. And finally, eventually, Master Sauer goes and his instructors, Helio and Rickson. And he said, my partner for the first however many years, I can't remember what he said. It was like 20 years.
Yeah.
His partner was Rickson Gracie. That's who he went to train with.
Which in reality, that's through his black belt, right? Up until you get your black belt, you are training with basically the seeds of what is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
Like the originals.
The OGs.
The OGs, yeah. Man, I loved that he was like the first thing that out of his mouth was white belt mentality, white belt mentality.
Yeah.
Right. And because we've pushed that topic so much here on the podcast and have it just reinforced, you're just like, I get it. You bring that mentality with you in any aspect of your life that I'm constantly learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything he said was, we're going to talk about this as a white belt. Mm-hmm. I'm going to approach this and remember we're white belts.
Yeah.
And eventually he gets his black belt from Helio and also from Hickson, because Hickson was a big part of Hickson's life, that he gets a black belt from both of them. And of his lineage, he's one of only 16 black belts awarded by Master Helio Gracie. He only gave 16 black belts, and Pedro Sauer's one of those guys.
So the author of the Bible here, Helio.
Yeah.
Right there. You probably can't see it on the desk here. If you're on the YouTube, you can see.
There it is.
There's the Bible.
Yep.
So the man that authored the Bible here, the Jiu-Jitsu Bible.
Yeah. And he talked about a little bit about like how he ended up in Utah. But he comes to Utah in 1990. It's like December, and he comes in the cold.
Yeah.
He went from Brazil to California with Hickson to start helping Hickson run his schools out there in California. And then he comes to Utah, and there was some of the black belts that he actually started with at that seminar, which is in itself is such a cool idea, because we're standing looking at these black belts that we know that we don't even feel like are this hierarchy of black belts. And when you're training jiu-jitsu, like, you almost lose sight, because you're around them so often, that these guys are like the royalty of Utah, you know?
Yeah.
And our professor, Mike Diaz, is in that lineage of people that he gives that he awarded black belts to.
Right. He's in the main trunk.
He is.
Like a main branch, a big branch.
A big branch. And he talked about that. But one of the things that Master Sauer's known for is, everybody knows about the Gracie combat or the Gracie fights, and that's where they would test the Gracie system against other martial arts. And you could come in and you could challenge a Gracie black belt or a Gracie fighter, and they would have these little fights, and that you tested your skill against their skill, and they wanted to prove that their skill was valuable.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And in Utah, Master Sauer ends up in 1994-ish, fights Mr. Utah, Lance Batchelor.
Yeah.
And he's a huge weightlifter.
Which, I mean, a big dude, not super tall. And you can Google the video. I watched the video earlier today, and then I watched Master Sauer break down the video, and I learned some interesting tidbits, which I'll interject as you tell the story here.
Sure. And we're going to put the link on our website. We're going to put the link with our social media stuff, just because I think it's cool. It's really interesting to watch this fight happen. And if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, you'll understand that he's fully self-defense.
Yes.
And his only strikes are just to advance position.
Yep.
Right. And so he ends up fighting Lance and armbars him in the fight. And there's so many things that are happening, and they describe what's going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And literally the moves that he uses are straight from the white to blue test.
Really?
Like the moves that you would use, right? That close the distance as he's opening up the fight, the close the distance, right? The few strikes that he does, land are, just to enhance his position. And ultimately we know he wants to get it to the ground. Right. He doesn't want to stand with, Mr. Utah, because he's a
huge
barrel chested dude.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because he had never seen this person before. They happened to be going to a radio station here in Utah, and, somebody had lined up Pedro or Master Sauer to talk about jiu-jitsu on the local radio here in Utah. Right. And that's when kind of the fight kind of started happening. There was this bodybuilder that was kind of saying, like, he didn't think that he thought it was all size and muscle. Right. Size and muscle will always, brute force will always, win the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And for those of us in this art, we always have to remember that it's a martial art, that it is a martial art. And Master Sauer was saying that our number one job is to keep our body healthy. Yeah. And in the fight, he does a really good job of taking no damage. No damage. And there's blood on the gi, but it's not from him.
I mean, he didn't really even look like he was out of breath.
Yeah.
Like, I got done with training today, and I'm like, I tried to use what he said on Tuesday to save 35% so you can come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's always kind of my goal, right? I don't want to burn myself out. I'm 40 plus years old. And, I see myself as a black belt someday. And so I want to save that energy so I have it, for those younger guys. And you definitely feel that when they talk about the white belt spazzy, it's the lack of skill and the exertion of force and pure muscle.
And you think that that's going to do what, and you can see Lance in this fight believe that he's going to be able to overpower and outstrength Master Sauer.
Yeah.
And there is little to no exertion that Master Sauer does. And at the end of the day, we that's how we want to approach life. We want to always have something extra in the gas tank. And he talked about that, like you just said.
Yeah.
He talked about that extensively. Save your body, save some gas to come back for tomorrow, because at the end of the day, we need you on the mats.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end, he does beat Lance, and you can kind of watch the video, and there's some excitement. There's some controversy at the end, because I don't think Lance wanted to own up to what happened. Mm-hmm. And when you Google that or you watch it, you can go to Reddit and see like some of the controversy that came out of it. And you'll watch the video and you're like, that's not true.
In the breakdown video that I watch of Master Sauer kind of talking about it, he says he heard his elbow pop.
Right.
He heard the elbow pop. He knew it was injured and or broken.
Right.
And Lance probably wasn't aware that he had hurt him. So maybe he, I don't know. I haven't read much of that controversy on Reddit or anything like that, but you can tell when you can feel, right? If it's happened to you, if you've been in that position, you're in a precarious position.
Yeah. And, just so we wrapped it up with, Master Sauer, when you meet him, it's awesome. And I'm sure that's with every, jiu-jitsu practitioner at that level. They really are unassuming. Mm-hmm. They talk very quietly, and they say that the best way to self-defense against a fight is to walk away.
Walk away. Well, I loved it. He told so many stories. He's such an orator, such a troubadour.
He does.
He tells all these stories about, taking people to Brazil and taking him to the statue of Christ and like how this young man is trying to hustle this bunch of tourists that Master Sauer is kind of guiding around the statue. And, the police show up, and the police are like, you know who you're messing with, right? Like to this hoodlum, this street hood that thinks he's tough stuff. The police who've trained jiu-jitsu there in Brazil are like, that he's like a coral belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like, you should beat him up. I should have just let you beat him up.
Yeah, we'll walk away.
It
was awesome. And he ends up, he got, in 2005, he was awarded the best jiu-jitsu teacher. That's what they think he's the best jiu-jitsu teacher. And when you take a seminar from him, he does a really good job of breaking down the technique from the very beginning of a white belt, how a white belt would use it. And as you keep going, he does add on to higher belts. But he showed a technique, and I watched all the black belts go and then try it, because they said, well, I never seen that.
Yeah.
I never seen him do that before.
Right.
I never seen how he manipulated the arm, locked the arm, and they were all trying and doing the moves that he was showing. And to me, that's what you want.
And that's funny, because in the breakdown video, he tells a story about how he's teaching a police seminar in Murray High School down in Salt Lake, and Lance's coach shows up to the seminar, and he had no clue what an armbar was, no clue. And he showed him, the position that he got him in, and he still felt like, even after showing the coach that the coach he wasn't prepared, he wasn't ready.
Right.
He wasn't ready. And the interesting thing is like this fight took place a few weeks after UFC 1, the very first UFC. Right. And I think that's kind of what sparked the radio conversation, and that's what sparked this kind of exhibition match. People were kind of hyped because, Gracie ends up winning that Ultimate Fighter 1,
right?
Which was a wild format back in the day, like
crazy,
way different than what we
what we know now,
what we see today.
Yeah.
but just his need to not like, he knew he doesn't need brute force anymore. He doesn't need to flex. He knows he can protect himself.
Right.
He's built up enough confidence, and that's what you do by showing up to the mats every day. You build up enough self-confidence in your skill and in yourself that you know you're mentally tough.
Right.
That you don't, it doesn't affect your nervous system when some young street hood is up in your face because you've took away his hustle.
Right.
And that's why walking away is, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Your ego likely won't allow you to do that if you are not able to really interpret the messages that your nervous system is telling you, right? You get stuck in that fight or flight, and you've now I gotta puff my chest up.
Yeah.
I gotta be a man. I gotta show my virility, or I've got to show, I got to exhibit this masculinity, or whatever we want to call, whatever that is, that machismo, that bravado, right? Like, you bump chests and hopefully somebody's level-headed enough to walk away. But if not, and it escalates into violence, right? You know that you can take care of yourself. Yeah. And it just becomes something that you don't need anymore.
Yeah, and you don't have, like you said, you do not have to prove it. You don't have to show what your strengths are, because your friends know your strengths.
Right.
And your friends are the ones that you practice your techniques with on the mats. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that love you. And he kept saying to share information, to share tidbits, to share jiu-jitsu. Don't hide jiu-jitsu. And he said, always smile. Either you're going to have a good day or you're going to have a great day. And I always think about that, because Professor told us that one day, any day on the mat, it's a good day. If you get a submission, great day. Yeah. Great day. Yeah. But if you don't, it's okay. You just had a good day, So not every day is great, but every day is good, and we don't have to, like you said, we don't have to go out there and puff our chests and fight every fight. Look for every submission. We need to save our grips and take little sips.
It's like eating hot soup.
What a Jeff, Professor Curran, Jeff Curran, if you guys don't know him, also he under Master Sauer, he moved to Utah just to be with Master Sauer and train. And we went to his camp in Florida. Great guy, Jeff Curran. We appreciate everything he does, but he's the first one that told the story of the soup. And the idea is, you don't grab a hot bowl of soup and chug it and just put it in your mouth and burn your mouth. Yeah. What you do is you take little sips, because that's how you're going to enjoy it, and you're not going to burn your mouth.
Right.
That's the same way you approach jiu-jitsu, just little sips. Yeah. Little sips. And he was, Master Sauer was saying, around the edge. Make sure you stay around the edge. Don't go in the middle, because it's too hot. Yeah. And those little tidbits, those little tiny things that you can pick up from these unassuming individuals, is where we want to go with this podcast. Mm-hmm. Because Tyler and I, we are not aggressive. I've had moments in my life where, and I appreciated what he said about this. He said, the people that are your friends, that you were your friends, like when you were aggressive, like when I was an aggressive man, when I would like to fight, go to the bar, and everybody knew that I was going to pick a fight. And now looking back at that, I'm not a big fan of that about myself. But he said, the people that know you then, that knew you then, and now that you're doing jiu-jitsu, they know that there's a difference. Yeah. They know there's a difference in you. Right. And that's jiu-jitsu.
So somebody tell my... That's another popular trope that's going around. Somebody tell my ex-girlfriend that I got my blue belt.
Yeah. That's such a funny one.
Right?
Yeah. And the idea is when you meet these men, and especially like Tyler and I, we don't know everything, and we're not saying that we know everything, but there is an idea now in certain social media influences where it's all about aggressive and all about aggro and all about, I'm the most dominant alpha male figure, and you should buy into what I'm selling because I have the plane, I have the girls, I have this aggressive personality, and I have this tough look, and I have all these muscles. And when you sell that picture to young men who are lost and who don't have the idea that person is also doing the WWE figurine macho man Randy Savage.
Right.
That's still just a persona.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And not everybody can reach that level. And I get what they're saying. I understand what some of these people say. But we're unassuming.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. We're still making our own mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And we're in our little environment and our common unity. And I'm not a big figured man. I carry myself well, I think, but I'm not aggressive, and I don't want to portray that.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, I don't want to call it toxic masculinity,
Sure.
but it kind of is old school masculinity in the sense that it's like, you know, everybody kind of idolizes the Rip from Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? That like, oh, I'm going to kick some guy's ass and, you know, nobody can kick my ass, or it's like this bullshit bravado,
right?
It's a front that you have to put up. And I think recently, you know, I sent you a message.
Yeah, and you were it triggered you.
I was definitely triggered.
Yeah.
I was definitely triggered, and I think the line that triggered me most was that you know, this coach that I've paid actually said the world needs less compassion.
Right.
And I'm like, that's bullshit. The world has been operating on less compassion for most of our human existence.
Right.
Right. You know, I don't care what race, creed, or religion or spirituality you subscribe to. At the end of the day, I respect and I see the divinity in you as a human being, and I hope that and I respect it, and I hope that you do the same. But to operate on this machismo of the world needs less compassion is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's absolutely your dad not asking for directions, teaching you horseshit principles,
right?
For lack of better term. And when you see coaches that operate in this manner, that operate, and I'm going to call out Watson Fit. I don't know if anybody's seen him on Instagram. He's a huge dude. He's huge. And he's got millions of followers. He reminds me of a Dan Blizzerin. Do you remember that? Remember that character?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like where it's like, and that is part of the problem with the social media today. And this is why you probably see me posting a lot less. And what I do post, I'm very curated. I'm almost a little intimidated.
Sure.
Not that because I don't want to be this cult of personality. Right. Because the cult of personality, I believe at its core, at its intrinsic core, is narcissism.
Right.
It's protecting my ego.
Right.
I don't care about you unless you listen and do what I say.
Right.
I don't care about you.
Right.
I don't. If you want to follow what I have to say and what I'm teaching, what I'm doing, and I will coach you as long as you walk this path, then you are good. Then that is cult of personality.
Right.
And I've escaped that already once in my life.
Right.
Right.
And it's hard. It's hard because you can find value in stuff that they're saying. Like, you know, I appreciate like what Jocko, Goggins, some of those guys do. Like, I appreciate what they do. I don't personally wake up at 4:30 in the morning,
right,
and go and do these crazy things. But I appreciate what they do.
Right.
I think it's a very select few people that have that ability. I know some people that have that ability that can wake up and do those things. I can't. But I don't think myself less.
Right.
Because I don't.
Right.
I don't see myself in the mirror as, don't be a puss, get your ass up, go do this bullshit. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I know that about myself.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting in the cold plunge. 100%.
Yeah.
I will tell you that it's one of the greatest things that you should do. I preach it like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
I don't personally get in the cold plunge every day. Trip, he gets in there and he stays in there and he's got his music going, jumps in there, and he can go in there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's like, Dad, come on. And I'm like, nope, not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't see myself less. But if I prescribe to those, or if I believed in those ideologies that I'm less of a person, then I'm going backwards.
Right.
Do I have a strong personality to go? Doesn't really matter to me what you think.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But what I think about that when I hear those things and when I watch those things is somebody's listening to that guy and they cannot live up to what he's saying.
Absolutely.
And they see themselves as less.
Yes.
And so that cult of personality, they cannot get to that point.
Yes.
But they can't stand strong enough and go, I'm still okay.
No, and I think intrinsically that was my issue, right? Yeah. When we see this cult of personality acting like this, and we accept this and we adopt this, we have issues where we go out and we're not kind to women. We see women as a body count.
Yeah.
We see money as a way of proving our worth. And when you see statistics like the percentage of men that actually commit suicide.
Yeah.
It's like something in the 80% of suicides are white males.
Right.
And I'm not cool with that.
No.
And I'm not cool with that because they believe they have, likely what's led them to that is this belief that they have to be this impossible standard.
Right.
And it's not about the impossible standard. It's about the baby steps, the incremental process, the showing up for yourself every day. If you've stopped showing up for yourself, you're not in the gym or you're not doing something to move your body. Yeah, I get it. Let's do something. Let's fix that. What are the things that are in your control? I love, Jocko has this quote about mind control, right? And it's not about controlling somebody else's mind. It's about what thoughts you can control in your mind.
Right.
And what are you in control of? What are you capable of? And setting some goals and putting yourself on a path. Get yourself on a routine. You know, I know you don't wake up at 4:30 in the morning, but I do know you have a breathwork routine every morning.
I do.
And I know you've got a stretching routine every morning.
Yeah.
You're not like immediately waking up and scrolling Facebook.
Right.
You're not immediately jumping on, Instagram.
Yeah.
You're not jumping on the porn websites.
Right.
Right.
Which, gosh, that in itself, like all those little things that people get lost in.
Exactly.
And I think, like I said, I think that the Watson Fit.
Yeah.
Watson Fit. I watched some of his things, and like I said, I think he has a place. I think they have a place with certain people, with certain individuals. Mm-hmm. But what about the people that cannot, that do wake up and go, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is my life. And I'm going to, I log into my social media. The next thing I know, I'm looking at OnlyFans, and then I'm down the path of these dopamine hits that are causing me to feel inadequate.
Absolutely. Those are the type of people that where life is happening to them. They haven't figured out they are in charge of making life happen for them.
Right.
And I'll be the first to admit, I've spent a majority of my life in that spot. Life is happening to me. Why is this shit happening to me?
Right.
Not understanding that how much more I was in control of, how much more effort I could be putting in.
Right.
And it does sometimes it takes the help of a therapist. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes the help of a coach. Sometimes it takes the help of a friend or a mentor or a jiu-jitsu buddy. But you have to be humble enough to ask.
Right.
You have to be humble enough to say, I'm really struggling with this. I'm really struggling with Pornhub.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to understand that, like, who you ask for help from. Because, like, what if I asked for help from this, like, aggro-aggressive person that I'm already intimidated by, and I asked him for help, and he's like, well, I don't want to help you.
Quit being a bitch.
Quit being a bitch. Yeah. Toughen up.
Toughen up.
Man up. And you're like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I don't know how.
Right.
And you just start pretending, emulating everything that they're doing. And all of your friends and all of the people around you that you're around who know you for who you are like, that's not really who you are. Yeah. And now they're even more turned off.
Yes.
And now you put all this effort into being this person who you think you're supposed to be, but you can never attain. You never can get there because your personality, because you may have some softness. I have a lot of emotion. Mm-hmm. I was raised by a single mom.
Right.
Both my brother and I were around 3 girls. We are strong men, but we have a lot of emotions. We in certain things, we could probably be like soft. We may have some ideas that we just are not manly in other people's ideas, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're in that little environment and you cannot get to this, I'm going to be aggressive, I'm going to be an alpha, I'm going to do this, then what happens? You start pretending, then you're angry at all the people. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that happened. But you get angry, and now what happens? You need to release all of this aggression, and you don't know how. So you start doing some crazy things.
Right. And I look at the dating scene and how broken it is out there. Like, you go break a woman, and now she's broken for somebody that has done the work. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you go break your son, and he's then perpetuating the cycle of trauma.
Right.
And so that's the goal. That's the goal, I think, that we are trying to challenge men too. Like little sips.
Yeah. Little sips.
There are demons you have to address. Mm-hmm. Sit with yourself, learn to interpret the messages that your body and nervous system are giving you, because that's what they are. Don't anesthetize them. Don't numb them.
Right.
Through the various amount of drugs, whether it's a drug or it's a synthetic drug like video games or social media.
Right.
Right. Do the work to make those tiny steps day by day. I've been going to Al-Anon just because I find
love that.
I find so much value in the 12-step program that I just wanted to learn more about it. Al-Anon is for friends and relatives of alcoholics. And while I don't have a direct tie to those groups, you could put in any addiction, right? Because addiction, it comes in many forms these days. We can be addicted to food. We can be addicted to a lot of things, but the principles of Al-Anon are so simple. Mm-hmm. There's all of these little mantras and statements that they give you day by day. Let go and let God, right? And it's these little things that we use to reinforce ourselves when we don't have our jiu-jitsu partner,
right?
When we don't have our therapist on speed dial, these little things that we can rely on. And it's just baby steps. It is really just baby steps to get us to that thing. And there's no finish line. I'll never be, complete. I will always be a work in progress.
Yeah, for sure.
But I will always be in connection. And I believe the highest currency you can have as a male is your own self-awareness.
Right. For sure. Yeah. It really is. It really is accountability.
Yeah.
Like knowing when you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing something that doesn't feel correct.
Right.
When it doesn't feel like it's your path, when it doesn't feel like it's your purpose. And we talked about like this, and we're going to cover this in another episode of whenever a man is doing his purpose, whenever he's doing his purpose, he knows he feels great about himself. He feels so confident. He doesn't have to act. He doesn't have to pretend. He is fully inside of himself, fully aware of himself, and he's doing his purpose.
Yeah. And
I've heard that from other men, other people that I subscribe to. And part of that also is continuing to ask questions that will gain you further ground in the next step, right?
Right.
When we go back to jiu-jitsu, if you start as a white belt, then you're like, okay, what's the next progression?
Yeah.
What's the next progression in that move? Mm-hmm. What's the next progression? And that is such a cool way to look at things, and always knowing that if you fail, just go back to square one.
Yeah.
Just to start back at the beginning.
Right.
And life is over.
And there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
Right. And I have been, and I speak from experience because my mess is my message. Right. Mm-hmm. So I should give credit where that credit is due. So the same coach that said, the world needs less compassion, he also said, your mess is your message. And I'm here. I'm belief of that. Right. Like if you want to live via negativa, you can look at the way I've lived in certain aspects, and you're more than welcome to pull from these examples. I'll give them to you for free.
Sure.
Because it is my self-awareness that has set me free from them. And I'm not trying to be or die on my sword here or say that I'm perfect, but I am a work in progress. I'm a work in progress every day. But we have to be kind to ourselves. Right. We have to be compassionate with ourselves.
We do. Yeah, we have to be compassionate with other men. Exactly. I believe that 100%. I believe that you need to be very gentle sometimes with other men because you do not know their story. And men sometimes have only two switches, off and on.
And if you're on that path to self-progression, to conquering your demons, to mastering yourself, then you don't need to chest bump. Mm-hmm. You don't need to posture. You don't need to do those things.
Right.
You focus completely on your own personal progress.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and we're not saying, one thing I want to make very clear, like I'm not saying that because of where I'm at in my life and because I'm not where I want to be at the end, mm-hmm. that you shouldn't subscribe to me. All I'm saying is we can do this together.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to be sometimes a pillow and sometimes I'm going to be a hand.
Yep.
Right? Sometimes I'm going to be soft landing and other times I'm going to smack you in and go be like, right. We got to get going, man.
Right.
Right. And that's part of what we want to do with every one of our friends, everyone in our community, everyone in our academy. Sometimes you have to be like, hey man, this is the way we do things.
Right.
And then other times you can't be aggressive because that person may quit. And the ultimate quit is, like I said, I've had two friends that committed suicide. That's the ultimate quit. The ultimate quit because I look at it and I go, why?
Yeah.
My memories are now why? Like why? What happened?
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying that that's the way it should have unfolded. I'm just saying that I don't know why.
Right.
I don't know why.
And that you'll never know. You'll never know. And it comes back to, these type of coaches, this cult of personality, they tell you what to do. And we talked about this on a previous episode where when you tell somebody what to do, it's encoded in, our lowest form of mental functioning. And it's not effective. It's not an effective way to coach, to tell somebody what to do. You shouldn't do it with your children, right? There are some ways of setting boundaries, right? But boundaries are bridges that help us build trust. And that's how we should treat our children, right? We build a boundary for them. We may need to dictate to them. We may need to parent them. And that's okay to occasionally step in and say, you need to do this. But then you also need to be able to be compassionate in the way that you tell him to do that so he understands and it's not encoded in that fear. Mm-hmm. Because if it's encoded in fear, that lesson is never learned. You'll end up just having to tell him again. If you ever find yourself, man, I told him to do it 1,000 times to do it, right? Yeah. Well, that's why. Yeah. You're not teaching the message in an effective manner that's being learned in long-term memory.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the roundabout. Like I said, we're at the end of the day, I'm not purposely calling people out. I'm just saying there's other ways to do things. There is other ways. And I can be a very soft pillow.
Yeah.
And I can be a very strong hand.
Right.
And what I noticed, wrapping this back around to the little sips and save your grips.
Yeah.
Master Sour, and we had all these other black belts standing in front of us. And there was there was some people that you're like, look at that guy, and you're like, that dude's tough.
Yeah.
And then you look down the line, and you're like, man, each of those guys are tough in their own way.
Right.
And you could go to any of them, ask them a question, and they'll show you.
Right.
They're not going to aggressively tune you out, turn you off, get you away from them. They're going to show you, they're going to teach you, and they're going to tell you the smallest, littlest details of how to find that position.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of person that I want to subscribe to.
Yeah.
That's the kind of person that I want to be.
Yeah. Little sips is, for me, take those tiny steps to address those demons.
Yeah.
The save your grips. Don't grip on to any thought or idea too hard.
Right.
Be a white belt and be willing to change your mind if you're wrong.
Right.
Be self-aware.
Be self-aware. And those people, like I said, those people have their place. And if you subscribe to them and you feel like what Tyler and I are saying is wrong, we want to hear your input. We want to hear where you're coming from on that, and I will give you space to listen. I will listen to you. I will hold space with you. I'll hold court with you. And if we need to escalate it onto the mat, like I'm not. Professor said, or Master Sauer said, if the attack is on and the submission is about to happen, why are you not going to smile and laugh, and then hopefully that person shows you that technique?
Right.
He's like, if you're the person that's mad and pissed that guy tapped you, nobody's going to want to show you anything. They're just going to want to keep tapping you,
right?
Because they enjoy that.
Yes.
Right. And I thought that was so funny to me, because I was like, oh, it's so true. Whenever the academy is buzzing, and we talked about the honeycomb, bzzz, everybody is smiling, everybody's laughing, everybody's having a good time, but there is some serious intention going on in those roles.
Absolutely.
And people are trying to tap each other, and it's a martial art.
Yeah.
And you're trying to survive. And I thought that is such a good way to look at it. And that's a good way to look at life.
Right. Just anacondas slowly moving into positions, working their magic. And yeah. Oh man, what a fabulous episode, Danny.
It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you for holding the space, and thank you for letting me send you this text and working through it, and mentally just being able to wrap my head around the world needs less compassion, because I don't believe it. And if that's what you subscribe to, we're more than happy to go some rounds in Park City Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
We're there every Sunday. Hey, do you want to mention the fundraiser that we're doing?
Yeah. Okay. So we are working with Utah 1033 Foundation. This foundation is for fallen officers' families. The foundation takes the money, and they'll support the family of fallen officers from the initial go, from when it happens to, I think they even help with scholarships, therapy, helping out with that. So on June 10th at our Lehigh location, June 10th, 6 p.m., we're going to have an open mat. That'll be a couple hours. It's $10 to do the open mat, and all of these proceeds go to the foundation. We're going to give this whole entire proceeds to the foundation. We're going to have food trucks, bands, open mat. We are looking for raffle items. We're looking for sponsorship. If you or your company want to donate raffle items, sponsorship, you can contact me at compassionate_gentleman on Instagram. And we're going to try to make this event really fun. I know some people that have benefited from this little foundation, and it really is a good thing. We want to help with these fallen officers' families. If it happens, we love our police officers. We love the police officers in our academy, and we're grateful for what they do and what they put down the line. And
it's a community. I know that police are constantly under fire, right? They have a very difficult job. They meet with all kinds of different people in various different situations. They're called to be not only to protect us physically, but oftentimes they're thrust into situations where there's something more, where a therapist or counseling or medication may even be needed. And so, it's very important that we support our communities, right? Mm-hmm. And supporting our police, whether it's becoming active in a charity like this, or getting out there and just understanding who the officers and police officers are in your community, or being aware of in your neighborhood who's aware. We so often live in our own bubble.
Yep.
Get out of your bubble. Let's wrap up today, Danny. One more.
I want to make one more to one of our listeners. She knows who she is. We're here with you. I know you got the news. I know that this is not exactly what you were looking forward in your journey, but we're here for you. We know you. We love you. And we're pulling for you. I'm sure that everything is going to turn out the way that it's supposed to. And we're giving you a big hug right now. We love you very much. She knows who she is.
Yeah. Cheers.
And so, Tyler, where can we find you?
Yeah. LostBoyScouts.com. Lost Boy Scouts on Instagram, Facebook, and or Twitter. always reach out, man. We love hearing from our fans. We're getting constant feedback, more and more downloads. This little engine is gaining steam, and we're just going to keep chugging away. So
for sure,
please reach out. And yeah, same for you, Danny. How do we get a hold of you? Give us one more time.
Again, compassionate_gentleman on Instagram, Facebook, and like we said, this topic, if you feel like you want to discuss it more, you want to like come and pick our brain a little bit more, or give your side of how you feel about things. Park City Jiu-Jitsu, you know where we're at. We train in Park City. We have an academy in Lehigh. Sunday open mats at 11 a.m. And we're here for you. We'd like to hear from you. We appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, little
Cheers.
sips.
Little sips.
Save your grips.